Hello, hello. We are the Transpositions. Why do I look so dark now? I looked light before. I was sitting in the light. I promise. Now I'm sitting in the dark.
The
Anyway,
sunset.
so if you're confused because you're not seeing anything on your screen right now at home, it's because we've been erased from existence.
It's true.
Via executive order, we no longer exist as folks on your screen. So we have to just be voices disembodied. Oh, I have to disappear. When I disappear, I turn into this stupid thing now because I'm a staff member.
Well,
I
see,
don't know
you,
what.
you need to turn
Uh,
on the privilege. I don't know how this works. I'm just here.
yeah,
I am merely a ghostly apparition. Yes, we all have hats today.
yes.
I've
Team of
started
hats.
a trend.
Team of hats. Well, some of our haters have pointed out that Ember wears a hat. So it's
Uh,
like, bitch, we can all wear hats. The fuck you, the clothes police. So
The
it's
fuck
a
is
hat
wrong with
day.
hats? Hats are fabulous.
It's
Look, I got
fucking hat
this.
day.
Yeah, this is J24 2017 World Championships Port Credit Yacht Club Canada, aka Toronto, just outside of Toronto anyway. Port Credit is
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Well,
The almost yeah, one of the lightest breeze. Listen, that and the Lake Ontario in uh, August, no wind. It's just crazy. Oh man, it was nuts.
yeah. How long did it take with no wind then?
Well, I mean, there was a day oh god, it took them forever to decide to abandon one race, and it was just can't
Yeah.
can't race without breeze. Can't do a sailboat race without breeze for
Yeah.
whatever
Breeze
reason.
breeze are important. You can't run the transposition without breeze either.
That's true.
That's true.
That's
You
true.
can't run the transpositions without breeze.
Yeah. Did you
We've
ever
tried
finish a
unsuccessfully.
race in Oswego? Because every so often I see
No.
the sailing things all come into the harbor. Just
Uh,
thought I'd
I
ask. We may have been in
no.
proximity and I never knew.
Oh,
Oh,
you like my
I've
genius?
sailed. I've sailed it in well, I've sailed in Rochester on Ontario. I've sailed on what's the little lake outside of Rochester? I forget what that one is. Sailed there a few times. Anyway, it'll
I
come
just
to
wanted
me.
to say that a friend of the channel, one of our guests that's on the channel, made this for me. Dr. Ben is,
Hell
yeah,
yeah.
he's like, he's just one of the people that do all the different things. uh,
It,
Mhm.
it, it-
Polymath.
yeah, a doctor who's good with his hands. Go figure.
Yeah. He's got like a whole stack of them because he keeps going and buying more yarn.
My
Uh,
oldest is like that too. Constantly, every holiday, birthday, whatever. Bring me yarn, different sizes, etc. Yeah.
yes.
Mhm.
So we might have a merch store for these at some point.
That would be good.
Uh, yeah, but it's been kind of we're all bubbly and stuff. We're running on fumes here for y'all
I
tonight.
certainly am.
It's
Steph
exhaustion
Steph
because
is
it's
coming
been an
off.
exhausting week.
Yeah.
Holy
Yeah,
Oh,
for
give
those of
me
crap.
you,
1 second, Ember. I said Steph. No, Steph
yeah,
is coming to us off of hosting tonight on campus.
yeah, it was, yeah, 2.5 hours on the transatlantic calling program took a lot of wind out of my sails, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it wasn't actually that we didn't have we didn't have a shit call all the way through, which may not be great for
Yeah, people like spicy
people
calls.
love to watch the train wrecks, and there weren't any
Mhm.
today, which was but it was really kind of gratifying. I was afraid the first call was going to be a train wreck, but it turned out to be Mila was terrific. She was just great. It's so
Yeah.
a lot of good talks, and I'm very grateful to be able to do it, uh,
Mhm.
and that Arden it hasn't kicked me off yet.
No, it was a really great show. There was a lot of productive stuff. I honestly, I can't pick out just one call that really stood out as really cool with some of the information presented and the different perspectives. And so everybody should just go watch that entire show if you haven't seen it.
Absolutely.
But not right now. Right now, you stay here and watch the transpositions, y'all. Come on.
That's right.
Right.
And
It'll stay on
you
replay later.
thumbs up down here because right now I'm showing like 11 thumbs up. We'll get 21 people watching. What the heck's that about? Did we offend you in some way?
I mean, our existence apparently is very offensive.
I've been told.
We'll take the engagement, however it goes.
Yeah. There we go. Yeah. That's a little much, though. Let's mellow that out.
Man.
There we go.
Yeah.
That's how it was before I knocked my camera around right before we started.
Getting all violent.
Anyway. Yeah, Ember, I didn't mean to cut you off earlier so rudely. You said it's been a busy week, been a hectic week for you. What's going on?
Well, I mean, for all of us generally, it's always a busy week for me. I've got this job with early starts, and then I work other jobs, and then I try to do the YouTubes in between. I just don't ever sleep. But this week, we got a new orange overlord. A shit, what did I call him earlier? It was super fucking clever. It involved the Canaanite overlord Baal, but I can't remember the alliteration.
I wanted to show you all something. So by progesterone, this tiny orange balls. Because tiny orange balls suck the testosterone out of anything.
Tiny hands. I don't want to think about it. The Stormy Daniels report was too. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Nope. Not doing it. No.
Yeah. But speaking of that, that's really what's on the agenda for today.
Like a mushroom.
Yeah. I mean, we have this, right? We have this on the agenda for today.
We do.
This is our executive order. This is the one that erases us. So, settle in for this. Okay. Carly should be popping in any minute now, but let's go ahead and get started on this. If you guys are ready.
Let's do it.
All right.
Ready.
Sure.
Let's go.
If we must.
Defending women from gender ideology, extremism, and restoring biological truth to the federal government. Executive Order, January 20th, 2025. All right. First, let's tackle the title. Go ahead. And Brian, you had something you
want to get ready to say. Fascism. So,
do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, the biological truth? So help you God.
Dun, dun, dun. Whenever a fascist says something, particularly something that seems to be direct and outright, the opposite is almost always true. So
it's funny because this word here includes us, actually.
It should, and in fact, it kind of does in a weird way that I'm sure we'll get to later.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Once you come around to it. All right, let's dig right in here. All right, I'm gonna read by paragraph. Okay.
Oh, good.
After each paragraph, then you all can insert your commentary, but it'll go smoother if we let me get through all of them. Okay. So, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the law of the United States of America, including Section 7301 of Title V, United States Code, it is hereby ordered. Are we ready for Section 1, ladies?
Lay it on me.
All right. Section 1, the purpose. Across the country, ideologues who deny the biological reality of sex have increasingly used legal and other socially coercive means to permit men to self-identify as women and gain access to intimate single-sex spaces and activities designed for women, from women's domestic abuse shelters to women's workplaces, or sorry, workplace showers. There, yeah, workplace showers. That's an important one. This is wrong. Efforts to eradicate the biological reality of sex fundamentally attack women by depriving them of their dignity, safety, and well-being. The erasure of sex in language and policy has a corrosive impact, not just on women, but on the validity of the entire American system. Basing federal policy on truth is critical to scientific inquiry, public safety, morale, and trust in the government itself. All right.
It's hilarious to pretend they have any interest in truth or scientific inquiry or even public
Or-
safety or trust in the
or
government. Like,
even
all of that. It's
That's
nonsense.
That's the thing. The science is not on the side of gender critical ideology. It's on the side of science, which says that that psychosocial categories are distinct and should not be pinned down by one aspect of your reproductive system, right? There's our existence within our ecology as part of a social species extends, into every facet of how you move through the world, from your environment to the way you interact with people, psychologically, sensory. It's all connected. And to pretend that it can only be linked to your uh, contribution to the reproductive process, to just the sexual reproductive process, not the rearing of kids or anything like that. That could be done by anybody of any gender or sex, but they want to pin us down by that one facet of our existence.
wow, listen to Bree spitting out the biological reality here.
It's what Bree
Holy
does.
shit.
But there's more in here.
Yeah.
There's so much. I mean, first of all, biological reality of sex. We've covered this extensively. Everyone has covered this extensively. We're not denying the biological reality of sex. That's why we have to transition, because we're very keenly aware of the biological reality of sex.
Yeah.
The
It's why we have
self-identification permit men to self-identify as women. So first of all, it's circular. It's assuming its conclusion. It's begging the question. It's saying trans women are men, which is factually wrong, harmful, offensive. There's a whole host of problems, but also it ignores the fact that trans men exist as well as non-binary people. It's clearly very specifically targeted, and because it only targets men, which will later be defined as specific to a sex, that means it's in violation of several Supreme Court rulings, because you can't target one sex because of their sex, period. But that's a whole other thing. There's more, but I'm gonna blow a fucking blood vessel.
All right, let's do the next paragraph. This unhealthy road is paved by an ongoing and purposeful attack against the ordinary and long-standing use and understanding of biological and scientific terms, replacing the immutable biological reality of sex with an internal fluid and subjective sense of self unmoored from biological facts, invalidating the truth. That's not even a proper sentence. I think Trump maybe did write this himself.
They had ChatGPT do it.
That shouldn't be an end of a sentence. That should be a comma right there, because invalidating is a continuation of that thought.
Yeah, let's not get into grammar discussions. We had plenty of that earlier.
He's the president of our country.
Is it a simile or a metaphor? I don't know.
Yeah, I saw that part too. Invalidating the true and biological category of women improperly transforms laws and policies designed to protect sex-based opportunities into law and policies that undermine them, replacing long-standing, cherished legal rights and values with an identity-based, uh,
Incohate.
incohate social concept. Okay. I
Okay,
wasn't
This
sure if that
are
was
we
a
through?
typo there.
Are we through with that paragraph?
With
Because
that paragraph, part,
I've got
thought.
I've got something to say. That's bullshit.
It's so wild. Them saying, "Oh, we
You
have to
know,
worry about categoried opportunities." At the same time, they're dismantling DEI. Like, pick a lane, you fuckers.
It is. It's just amazing to me how crotch grabby all of this is. I mean, it's like
So
the problem they're attacking a problem that doesn't exist. First of all, they're building it all up, and they're doing it, I think, because they are really scared about and protective of their nutsack.
So I want to focus on this sentence here just because this is the problem with most people approaching this subject. Woman is not a biological category. You're not going to walk into a biology class and they're going to say, well, this is the woman frog and this is the man frog. Male and female is the terminology that we use in those situations, right?
Yeah, they don't know what biology means.
Woman is a social category. And some societies have more than just man and woman. They'll have a third, fourth, even fifth category.
Yes,
So,
actually.
You know,
what are the biological? What are the true biological categories of those distinctions? What in those societies?
I have the feeling. I have the feeling that this was written with looking out on the morning rain.
So
Natural
it's
woman
so
playing
weird
in the
to
background. You know, just ridiculous.
It's
You
so
know,
weird
you know,
to it's so weird to appeal to tradition at the same time as trying to promote or claiming you're promoting science. Those two are not; those are incongruent ideologies. You cannot appeal to tradition and uh, go, scientifically progress through our understanding at the same time. It doesn't work that way. You have to go.
let's appeal.
Quite so.
Let's appeal to epicycles. You know, that's
I love
real tradition.
epicycles.
Right.
So really quick, like, since you mentioned many cultures have other things, I grabbed
We're
the
on
link.
for about a minute. I'm gonna go refill my juice.
Okay,
Go, Ember.
Nice.
I grabbed the
I might
link
have to.
to the PBS map of gender diverse cultures. You've probably seen it come up before. Forrest Velkai references it fairly often. I've mentioned it a few times. It's in the bunch of links I keep over on my website for handy reference. And I've just dropped it into the chat so that y'all can look at your leisure. There's little pins all over the map. You can mouse over one and it'll give you some information on the gender diversity in the culture that lives in that specific place. It's by no means an exhaustive list. It's just several that the researchers at PBS identified, and they're all over the world, including North America. There's shit tons. It's really cool. And so, you know, save it to your bookmarks so you can reference it later.
All right. This next one's kind of short, so we'll still just do the one because it's the end of the section. And then we'll recap the section. But according to my administration, accordingly, my administration will defend women's rights and protect freedom from
This man wants to defend women's. Grab them by the what now?
yeah. Ember, it's just a short paragraph.
That would be.
I can't hold it on
by using clear and accurate language and policies that recognize women are biologically female and men are biologically male. So
Accurate
this was actually
language.
this actually brings up one of the calls that you had today, Steph. It really does a callback to that because what does it mean
Which
to be
one?
biologically female or male
Yeah.
if you've changed all your other biological systems via your endocrine system, and as was mentioned on your call, epigenetic responses
Yeah.
to that endocrine system, causing your body to physiologically change into a phenotype of a female, so the only thing left of your anatomy that is still biologically male is the reproductive
Yeah.
system. And then the people are like, well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
and certainly, there's never going to be a time of, well, at least that I'm aware of. There's never going to be a time where you snap through medication and all of a sudden your testes turn into ovaries, or your ovaries turn into testes. Maybe that'll happen, but I don't know. But there are too many elements of biology. Now, when you change the oil, as it were, I think it was Mila that made that analogy. When you change the oil, you get a different way of running. You switch over from one human paradigm to another, and that's biological. I mean, that there are, in fact, you don't stop being biological. Now, and it's all a matter of where are you drawing the line?
Yeah, it's like
Either scientifically, either medically or sociologically, where are you drawing the line between the sexes and the genders? And that is hugely subjective and hugely hugely blended, even among cis people, hugely blended. So
Oh yeah, there as we've often discussed, there's a spectrum within the genders. There's, the big, strong, manly men like Buck Angel used to be, and then there's, weak men who can barely lift a glass with both hands, like the current
low
president.
blow.
Yeah.
well,
but well deserved.
yeah.
Whatever.
All right. Are we ready to start section 2?
Oh,
Sure.
for God's sakes.
Why?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
Carly wants to come in.
No, we got to get Carly in here, because where is Carly? I don't see Carly.
Carly says Carly is knocking on the door. What's that Bible passage? Shit. I haven't been studying my Bible as much as I should. Behold, I stand at the door and
Usually
knock.
she just pops in. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Let me just make sure she's got the right.
Justice for
got the
Carly.
right link.
It looks like the right link, the one you dropped in the chat. Then, yeah, I'm sure Carly's got things to say on section 1 here.
Oh yeah.
Indubitably.
Indubitably.
Yeah.
Oh goodness,
Bang,
there's
bang on
there's
the
so
door,
much.
baby.
Like Arden was saying earlier, so much of this is also cultural. Like, as to use Arden's specific example, the age of adulthood in Thailand is like 14. So if a 15-year-old goes to Thailand, is she suddenly a woman? And then if she comes back, does she transform back into a girl again? There's so many examples that show how fucking ridiculous the lines that we draw are. They're so arbitrary.
Is Elon Musk still biologically bald? I mean, is that how we're defining things?
Yeah, the biological truth.
That because he's if it weren't for medical intervention, well, he'd be a bald guy. I think Trump would be too. So are these guys still biologically bald? What if they're again, back to what Mila's call there? What if they're have diabetes, so that they potentially they're going to go blind, but they receive insulin for treatment. Are they no longer biologically sighted because their vision is being artificially supplied to them through medical means? It's just silly.
Mm-hmm. It is, again, a thing that comes up all the damn time. Trans people make up a tiny, tiny fraction of the HRT market. Most of the HRT is for cis people, low T people who want to get an energy boost or higher libido, or women who are going through
Curly's
menopause,
here.
or what have you. Are they no longer biologically whatever they are?
Hey, Carly.
All right.
Hello.
Hey, Carly.
Well, welcome
Made
to the
it.
shit
Hey,
show
people, what's
party.
good?
Not this executive order.
Not what we're dealing with right here. Did you hear that? Did you hear the section 1? We're about to start section 2, but we're still at the very top.
Right, AR, pro-child marriage. What the fuck is this defending people from the group of people who want to marry fucking children?
Yeah, but they don't want to get their child bride home and find out she has a penis.
Oh, it hurts my head. I'm gonna steal a line from Chris. It hurts right here.
Yeah. Section 1 was a doozy. Let's move on down to section 2 here. Policy and
Yay.
definitions.
Oh,
It is the
goody.
policy of the
Are
United
we
States.
talking? Are we talking about this executive order nonsense? Because first off, everyone, I don't mean to. I'm gonna let y'all finish, but first, coming to you live from the Creating Change Conference 2025 in Las Vegas.
Ooh,
And,
awesome.
And this has been the main topic of discussion throughout the conference so far. We're in the middle of day 2. There's been a number of sessions today. I was in a day-long session that really broke down what these executive orders mean for transgender people, mean for transgender Americans. There's a lot of fear, and rightfully so. Now, I'm afraid. I'm into it, but I'm glad I'm here at this conference. I mean, excuse me, I just got back from. I did a nice little afternoon workout. I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, it was, hey, I still got a football season to get ready for. Donald Trump can't take that away from me. So, but the main thing is, in fact, there was a session with a group of legal experts and lawyers from the National Transgender Law Center. And the thing about this that makes this difficult is that we really don't know how far this rabbit hole is going to go. We don't know. I mean, the people who know about this don't know how far this is going to go.
I will say that that a lot of his executive orders in 2016 didn't make it past the lower courts, right? Like a lot of them did. It was just not throwing a fistful of spaghetti at the wall.
Well, he took a big hit today because of the judge in Washington State who basically said birthright citizenship, you can't get rid of that, and was exasperated that even got on the docket. I mean, that this even gets on the grid is wild. I mean, that's been in our Constitution since we've had a Constitution.
Right. It's one of the founding principles of our country.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So section 2 now is what we're heading into or diving into head first, I should say, because it gets we start defining things down here, which is fun. All right. Section 2, the policy and definitions. It is the policy of the United States to recognize 2 sexes, male and female. These sexes are not changeable and are grounded in fundamental and incontrovertible reality. Under my direction, the executive branch will enforce all sex protective laws to promote this reality and follow definitions, and the following definitions shall govern all executive interpretations of and applications of federal law and administration policy. Here we go. You ready, girls? Let's do this.
I'm ready. I'm ready, but I want to make one small correction. Birthright citizenship came into the United States Constitution in the second founding of American democracy, which is to say after the Civil War. It is the first clause in the 14th Amendment. And it was done to reiterate that Black Americans are Americans and American citizens.
Okay, yeah, I didn't know that. I was wrong. Thank you.
No, it's the
Thanks
first
for the
clause
lesson.
it's the first clause of the 14th Amendment, the first section of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, and it is one of the three amendments that were passed after the Civil War, and the 14th Amendment, like the Equal Rights Amendment, the ratification was rescinded by some southern states. And guess what? It's still part of the Constitution.
Well, let's look at these definitions, because Donald Trump's going to tell us what sex means, the definition of sex, according to Trump.
Oh, I'd love to learn about sex from Donald fucking Trump.
Sex,
I wouldn't.
Sex
I wouldn't. I really wouldn't. I don't
shall
need to be grabbed by
refer
the pussy.
to individuals' immutable biological classification as either male or female. Sex is not a synonym for and does not include the concept of gender identity.
Partially correct. Sex is not a synonym for and does not include the concept of gender identity. However, this whole either male or female business, he's kind of missing something there. A little smaller.
People like you exist, that chimeras are real?
Yeah. I mean, that's yet I've been multiply erased. Fuck.
Yeah. Out the door with you, Ember.
That's right. So
it's actually about the time you leave sometimes.
It usually is, yes. Oh my goodness. So there's depending on how you count, there's a potentially rather large number of intersex people. Some people say it's 1 in 1,000 births. They're generally referring to people who are born with very ambiguous genitalia. Others, some counts include all DSDs, which puts it at something like 2% of the population. There's more intersex people than redheads. And if I ever get to do my genetic research project, which, you can help fund over at betterthanember.com. That's a whole other thing, though. There could be as much as 10% of the population who have a genetic intersex condition and don't even know about it. So there could be quite a lot of us, more than the population of fucking Russia. You can't say the world is made up of men and women and Russians. That makes no fucking sense.
Women or woman and girl or girl shall mean adult and juvenile human female, respectively. And then C ties right into this. So B and C right together. This is the one time I've seen where Donald Trump will put women before men. Wow. He usually wanted to hold an umbrella for a woman.
I know.
But yeah, it's the same scenario. Men or man and boys or boy shall mean adult and juvenile human male, respectively. Is Donald Trump confirming for us today here in his executive order that dude is the gender neutral term?
It would seem so, or at least it's not a federally defined term and therefore needs to be excised from the dictionary post haste. But this is also, it's so wild because, okay, great, you've defined it. What do you mean by adult now? Because again, ages limits differ, right? In several states, the age of majority is 18. However, in places like, say, Oklahoma or Alabama, the age of consent, shall we say, is considerably lower. So again, if you go from, say, New York, where the age of majority is 18, to Oklahoma, now you're legal, you're an adult. You do the adult thing, and then you come back, and now you're a child again. What happened? Does it suddenly become a statutory incident?
And people can recognize the social gradient on things like that. The difference between two kids that grew up together at the same time, they're going to have a different point at which they got the same date of birth, where one of them would be gone through a process that they whatever biological process that they're going to define as maturing into adulthood, and the other one doesn't. There's gray areas there, and they can understand that here talking about age. Why can't they understand that with talking about gender? I don't get it. All right, now
the fun part.
Well, G and E are also tethered together. So I'll read them together. But female means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces large reproductive cells. Male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces small reproductive cells. I got some bad news for you, Mr. President. Nobody at conception is producing reproductive cells. That's kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Afraid to have sex when they're pregnant because they don't want to get the baby pregnant. That's the kind of nonsense that's going on here.
Yeah, see, they fucked it up because this comes straight out of the whole life begins at conception concept.
Yep, that's exactly why they did that.
So they fucked it up. All right, fine, take it to court. All right, well, all right. In which case, we're all non-binary then, I guess.
Apparently.
Right?
But it's also there's so much stupid here. For one, there's circular definition.
Oh, God.
Female, a sex, refers to the sex we call female. And where's Matt Walsh and Michael Knowles when you need them to bitch about circular definitions? Holy shit. But also
I never need either of those guys.
I know. So yes, when you're a single-celled, newly fertilized zygote, you're not producing any reproductive cells, obviously. And I'm sure they would defer to the genetics, but there's additional problems there. It isn't the genetics that determine which reproductive cells you produce. It's the hormones you're exposed to during gametogenesis. If it doesn't matter what your chromosomes are, if you're exposed to estrogen during that phase in fetal development, you get ovaries, period. If you're exposed to testosterone, you get testicles, unless you have androgen insensitivity, in which case you get ovaries, because female is the default body plan unless androgens interfere. But if you can't receive androgens, you get a female body plan.
Well, that just sounds like a whole bunch of gender ideology to me. Let's find out what that means.
I mean, there are exceptions. Sometimes you get a chimera like me where it's a little of each,
Hey, so nobody cares. Nobody cares about gender. Nobody cares about gender ideology when the ideology is centered is panic white cisgender people. Let's be real about that.
There you have it.
That's part of the problem here too, is that they're defining trans people as ideologues instead of just people. We're not ideologues. We're part of the population.
But that's what they always do. You see, when you dehumanize the victim, if you can dehumanize the victim, you can kill the victim. That's what it is.
Yeah, I've said it before. I'll say it again. The ideology is all what's written here. It has nothing to do with a living, walking, breathing trans person.
Gender ideology.
There's no ideology involved in being alive, and trans people are living their lives in a different sort of way than the vast majority of people, but it's just a different way. It's just a different way to be human. That's all.
Yeah, but here's the thing, Stephanie. Are we really all that different?
No.
I mean, to me, my feeling has always been, you know what? Yeah. The only thing that's different about me was the way I express myself and move through the world as the woman I am. But
Mhm.
in the real sense, you know what? I got up Wednesday morning at 4 a.m., lugged myself to an airport, waited in that long security line like everybody else,
Mhm.
got into a seat that's too small for me, everybody else, strapped into a tin can like 300 other people, and flown. What's different? What? How is that different because I'm trans? It ain't. And that's
It's
the
not.
thing. The hysteria is the hysteria is the thing that gets me. The hysteria of it all. I mean, seriously, what is? I mean, the real question I want to ask the entire Trump administration, all the people that are doing this, is what about transgender people make you so damn uncomfortable? What is it? Can we talk about it? Let's talk about it, because that's what all this. I've read this executive order from cover to cover. I have. It has been the predominant discussion since I've been at this conference. Everyone's talking about it, and so many people are, and there's a lot of fear, and rightfully so. But I want to get it back to the one critical thing I've said about everything. You know me. One thing you know about me is I've talked about sports, and I've always said the same thing. And I don't understand why anybody wants to talk about this. Why are these very rigid cisgender people so damn uncomfortable? What's uncomfortable here? We got to talk about that. We got to talk about. They have to really talk about this, because you're talking about
It's
demonizing 1.6 million Americans out of
correct.
340 million.
Correct.
The math ain't mathin'.
No, it is not, and that's why what we're reading is the ideology. The people are. Uh, the people seem to be, just by their very existence, seem to be causing offense, and this is what this bunch of words are trying to marshal. And I think I think I said last week on the show, uh, it's low cost, high return.
Okay, I think I need
Uh,
to
you
reiterate the
know,
rules for these long-winded bitches. Listen, let me read the paragraph, and then you make your commentary, okay? Because
Okay, mom.
I will put the soapbox in
Fine.
front of
Sure,
each of you after each paragraph for you to say your
sure,
piece.
sure, Bree.
Okay,
All
mom.
right. So gender ideology replaces the biological category of sex with an ever shifting concept of self asserted gender identity, permitting the false claim that males can identify as and thus become women and vice versa, and requiring all institutions of society to regard this false claim as true. Gender ideology includes the idea that there is a vast spectrum of genders that are disconnected from one sex. That's false. They're not disconnected.
What?
They're definitely
End of the
overlapping.
paragraph,
Oh,
Bree.
okay,
Your
yeah.
own rules.
Gender ideology is internally inconsistent in that it diminishes sex as an identifiable or useful category, but nevertheless maintains that it is possible for a person to be born in the wrong sexed body.
Right. That's
Oh
that's why the poll question on the line
boy.
earlier.
That
Yeah.
is that is in fact why the poll. And let's not get
Mhm.
into metaphor versus simile discussion here.
It was a
Let's
metaphor.
who wants to go? Who wants to bite into this first? I guess.
Oh, there's so much. I mean, this paragraph itself is internally contradictory and says several false things, as you yourself started to note. And this description of they define gender ideology as including the idea that there's a vast spectrum of genders. Yes, that is a true statement. Like, you're saying true things and ascribing it to the thing you're declaring is false. It's fucking fascism. Up is down, black is white. The Department of Peace promotes war. What are we fucking doing here?
We're creating we're erecting a straw man or a straw woman, either way.
Shadow boxing, and I mean, there's so much wrong with this. It's wild.
know,
But
And
there's
why don't we just say it? Eurasia is our ally. Eurasia has always been our ally.
that's right. That's exactly it.
mm,
There are 4
mhm.
lights.
And then to the born in the wrong body thing. This is it's so old. That trope is so old. I mean,
I've never
some
felt
of
like
the
I was in the wrong body. Like
some
I'll
of
just say that.
some of the some of some of the stuff comes out of some old memoirs, and just the use of a shortcut to try to describe the what dysphoria is like, and it's really inadequate, and it's really not right. I've never felt that way. It's just sort of kind of like as if, but it's not. But it's so incorrect, and it just gives these idiots ammunition to throw it back in people's faces and say, "Oh, that's crazy. How you're born in the wrong body." It's like, as Arden was saying earlier, it's like it's almost like a question of ensoulment, which is bizarre.
So that's, I mean, that's been one of my criticisms about like the gender critical position all along, is that it almost seems to entail the existence of some kind of soul or something tethering your identity, like who you are, to your reproductive system. There's like there has to be some unknown tether that we haven't discovered yet that is would cause that to be a true statement. I'm not saying that maybe someday I will find something, the gender gene or whatever, but they haven't found it yet. So so you making gender critical claims are just magical thinking in that aspect. All right, let's see. We got to get through this. It's already 6:50 here, which means it's 8:50 for you on the East Coast. Gender identity reflects how a fully internal and subjective sense of self, disconnected from biological reality and sex, and existing on an infinite continuum that does not provide a meaningful basis for identification and cannot be recognized as a replacement for sex. So, identity has never not been on a continuous spectrum. Throughout human history, identity as a concept, as a psychological and psychosocial concept, has always and will always be on a continuum. Okay, the identities that we assume today are not the same identities that the Australopithecines on the savannah were assuming. All right, I need somebody to take the ball. Who wants to take the ball? The talking stick, whatever you want to call it.
The feather.
Mm-mm.
Steph, do you have the
It-
feather?
No, yeah, I actually do. Hold on a second. Yeah. Hold on. I'll get the feather. All right, there you go. Wait a minute.
We're gonna need a feather emoji. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Here we
Like,
go.
it's not.
There's the feather right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a replacement for sex. It's an additional descriptor.
The feather? Come on, of course.
That too. Are you a feather or a non-feather?
Hey, tickle my ass with a feather.
Is ethnicity just a replacement for eye color?
Oh God.
Recognizing women, or hold on. Yeah, we're in section 3. Okay, so we're moving along a little bit.
are.
Not quite as quickly as I.
Kinda, yeah.
All right, section 3. Recognizing women are biologically distinct from men. This again. Sorry. Let's continue on. Within 30 days of the date of this order, the Secretary of Health and Human Services shall provide a or should provide to the U.S. government, external partners, and the public clear guidance expanding on the sex-based definition set forth in this order. So it's already self-referential though that women are just biological distinct from men, which it informs itself that women is again a biological category, which isn't true. At least not a single or a single faceted biological category. Sex can inform gender, and it usually has a pretty strong influence over it, but it's not the only thing that's informing gender. It's again multifaceted, environmental, psychological, social. It's and even economic, I guess, if you consider the fact that for a long time most people were too poor to transition or to even try to uh, live life as the gender that they would prefer. Anybody else got anything on this section here before we go on to B? Why didn't they enter this down below? Like the rest of them are
yeah, it's not
letters are
super
all
well formatted. There's a lot of errors in here. I'm saving the reason I'm still here is I'm saving the biggest one for the end.
okay. Well, I think that we should like I wish I had a red pen that we could do
I
some
know we could like
like
circle it and mark points off, grade the damn thing.
as like Mr. President, this period should be a comma. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Where were we? Okay, we're gonna do B now. Okay. Each agency and all federal employees shall enforce laws governing sex-based rights, protections, opportunities, and accommodations to protect men and women as biologically distinct sexes. Men and women are not sexes. Each agency should therefore give the term sex, male, female, men, women, boy, and girl the meaning set forth in Section 2 of this order when interpreting or applying statuses, regulations, or guidance, and in all other official agency business documents and communications. Yeah, this is like you were talking about, Denver.
He left out the other two genders, which would be camera and TV.
Yeah.
he doesn't remember that list anymore.
He doesn't remember that one apparently.
It's weird that he thinks the government like regulates language and can say, no, we demand that male and men and boy be synonyms.
Yeah, isn't that great how this whole time they've been going, oh, these people are trying to compel our speech, so we're gonna compel your speech, motherfucker.
Yeah. The Department of Efficiency, right?
The other soundtrack is ba-ba-da-da.
Well, this is like merging definitions is it gets kind of troublesome because right now it's it's targeting with the trans people, but once they learn that they can classify people out of existence, they can use that to what was it, rolling back the Civil Rights Act that protected like interracial marriages and things like that, all the implications of being able to police someone's identity this way. Like, are they going to make a legal definition of what it means to be black? I wouldn't be surprised because the situation with Kamala Harris's heritage was a factor during the election cycle, and they've started doing these executive orders to define terms. Are they going to do an executive order to define terms of race? I would, yeah.
Oh,
I think it's fair to
Clarence
point
Thomas
out,
will do that.
Yeah, I think it's fair to point out that the 1965 Civil Rights Act was passed in 1965. Loving v. Virginia wasn't decided as a case. Loving v. Virginia overturns the state laws banning interracial marriage. Wasn't decided until 1967.
Mm-hmm. and look what's happening. Wants to roll all that stuff back.
When
Next thing,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
next thing you know, you're gonna have that word come up again. We don't want all that miscegenation and race mixing going on. I'm scared that the United States of America is turning into one big 1960s era Mississippi.
My
That scares
experience
me.
on
We're
social media has been that there's a 50-50 chance when I engage with someone who's MAGA, American and they're MAGA, there's a 50-50 chance that they are maybe not necessarily pro segregation, but they're willing to entertain the benefits of segregation. And I mean, this 2025, guys.
Well, yeah. I
So
mean, one of the other executive orders that came out this week repeals an executive order from like 1872. Like he is trying to push shit back all the way to
oh
the Civil
no,
War.
but they've told you this after all. What do these people say all the time? We want our country back. It means it's not only a possession, it's a direction.
Right?
And by our country, they mean the Confederate States of America.
Uh-huh.
But
And
I
that's
mean,
the thing. The
Rather
party
than-
designations. D is for drive, R is for reverse.
yeah, but at the same time, I mean, I don't want to be the pill here because I love you three. You know that, right? But I'm gonna tell you, Black Americans warned you about this. We warned you about this.
This is why we love having you here.
Black women especially, we warned you about this. We told you, put this guy back in. This is coming. You
Oh.
put this.
We
we're
knew.
telling you, these people want it back. No, you three knew, but a
Mhm.
lot of people,
I think
people out
they
there
knew too. I think they went, yes,
Oh,
that's
and-
what we want. Thank you, please.
And oh, by the way, I'm in Las Vegas for this convention, right? Guess who's coming to town tomorrow?
Oh,
Elvis?
Guess who's coming? No,
He never left.
well, you know, Elvis still alive.
Mhm.
I'm still alive. Don't worry. Thank you very much. No, Donald Trump's coming here.
What the fuck?
Donald Trump is coming here to give a speech on his no tax on tips proposal while this conference is going on. In fact, tonight the conference put forth their official press statement on Donald Trump. And it will be interesting to see what happens. I would not be surprised if some people go in. I'm pretty sure there's going to be counter demonstrations to it. But no, Donald Trump is coming here.
yikes. So let's move
Grab
right
him,
through this.
grab him by the crotch when you see him from me, will you?
Ugh. I wouldn't
No
touch
one
that
wants
with
to
a
touch
10-foot
that.
pole.
I wouldn't touch it. No, you don't know where it's been.
When administering or enforcing
you know where it's
sex-based
been. That's the problem.
distinctions, every agency and all federal employees acting in an official capacity on behalf of their agency shall use the term sex and not gender in all applicable federal policies and documents.
But isn't that pornographic? Talking about sex all the time?
Right. Why do you have to describe your genitals to strangers? I don't understand why this is the freedom movement that they talking about, that they're bringing free speech back and things like this. Now you have to tell a stranger at the post office what your genitals look like to pick up your package.
Do you have a package or do you need one?
The Secretary of State and Homeland Security and Director of the Office of Personnel Management shall implement changes to require that government-issued identification documents, including passports, visas, and global entry cards, accurately reflect the holder's sex as defined under Section 2 of this order, and the Director of the Office of Personnel Management shall ensure that applicable personnel records accurately report federal employees' sex as defined by Section 2 of this order. Really invasive, because how are you going to enforce that? What's the plan?
Well,
Who's
you know,
cross-threaded?
you're gonna have to determine what your gametes were at conception.
Yes.
Conception. Well, that'll make it all that much
It's
easier,
kind of a
won't
little
it?
bit. Oh yeah, yeah.
Agency shall remove all statements, policies, regulation, forms, communications, or other internal and external messages that promote or otherwise inculcate gender ideology, and shall cease issuing such statements, policies, regulations, forms, communications, or other messages. Agency forms that require an individual's sex shall list male or female and shall not request gender identity. Agencies shall take all necessary steps as permitted by law to end federal funding of gender ideology.
Well, see, that's a fun one, because agencies taking the necessary steps as permitted by law would be none. There are no laws that permit agencies to take steps as laid out here or as defined in this entire order, but more on that
Later, yeah. All right, well, moving on down, we got down to F. The prior administration argued that Supreme Court's decision in Bostock versus Clayton County 2020, which addressed Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 64, requires gender identity based access to single sex space under, for example, the Title IX of the Educational Amendment Act. This position is legally untenable and has harmed women. The
citation needed.
attorney the Attorney General shall therefore immediately issue guidance to agencies to correct the misapplication of the Supreme Court's decision in Bostock versus Clayton County 2020 to sex-based distinctions in agency activities. In addition, the Attorney General shall issue guidance and assist agencies in protecting sex-based distinctions, which are explicitly permitted under constitutional and statutory precedent.
False.
Mhm.
Under the terms of the SCOTUS case that they just improperly cited, because that's not how you cite a Supreme Court decision, but that's neither here nor there. It is explicitly not permitted under the Constitution and statutory precedent. That's what the fucking case was about.
That's why they made
Indeed.
he thinks executive orders can overturn Supreme Court decisions, I guess.
He's
does.
ordering the Attorney General to ignore the
Supreme Court.
case. The
Yeah.
Supreme Court. He's
But
ordering the Attorney General to ignore the Supreme Court. He's, his favorite. Let's recall that the Orange Emperor's favorite prior emperor was one Andy Jackson, who quite famously said, "I don't give a shit what John Marshall says. Let him come at me." So there we go.
Yeah. And also there's so much wrong with all these fucking paragraphs, but the one more detail that really needs to be called out is that if this were carried out, it would also harm women, because it's going to not only put trans women in very dangerous situations, it's also, under the terms of this, it considers trans men to be females and therefore women, and so would put trans men back into women's locker rooms where they will be in danger.
We
Fucking
had
duh.
We had a caller today on Takis who has PCOS and has stubble, facial hair,
Mhm.
and she's a cis woman, and she's really scared. And
Mhm.
it's always been the case. Speaking of warning people, it's always been the case. Cis women will be affected by this far more than trans women. There are a lot more of them.
Well, that's
And
the point.
it's just that the mixture of trans misogyny, misogynoir, and just plain old misogyny is this order is just dripping with it.
Yeah, that is the entire point of not just this order, but the entire movement against trans women. They don't actually give a fuck about us. There aren't enough of us to give a fuck about. This is the smokescreen they're using to codify the policing of all women. It's the first step to Handmaid's Tale. It's saying you have breasts, you have to be dressed in this specific way for your own protection. It's you can't have a beard, you can't have alopecia, you have to shave your legs, all of this stuff. If you don't live up to the federal code of what it means to be a woman, you get fucking arrested.
And on the other side, don't be a Jezebel. Don't be a hoe. Don't dress provocatively.
Yeah.
Don't wear pants in my office.
Well, that's what
Because
happens
believe
when
me,
you.
because
When
believe
you-
me, you don't think Price Waterhouse isn't on the block here? They've been trying to get rid of that since that case was won. No, this is Gilead. The Gilead Republicans are going all out on this. They really believe Handmaid's Tale was a textbook.
Yeah, it's step one. But also, to what you were saying earlier, he does think he can overrule the Supreme Court with an executive order. And the bitch of it is, he kind of can, because the only thing that stops these is when someone sues. And then it has to work its way through the courts, unless you can get a court to put an injunction preventing an executive order from being implemented during the legal process. The whole time it's in force, and then it gradually works its way up to the Supreme Court, where the justices then either do what's constitutionally correct or rubber stamp what Trump says. And we have a pretty good hunch which way they're going to go.
The guy just wormed his way out of any consequences for committing 34 felonies in the state of New York. He doesn't give a fuck what any court has to say, because no court has yet held him to account.
Because if they do hold him to account, then there's going to be a frickin' the half the country's going to rise up and start. Just doing January 6th across the nation if they arrested Trump like they should for crimes that he committed.
There's quite a lot of that. Yeah, so he doesn't give a fuck what the law says. This is just a pretense. But if challenged, and that's the thing people need to understand about all laws, it doesn't matter if they're illegal, because they will stand until they're struck down. They still, this is why these Republican states keep passing gender care bans and abortion bans and all sorts of ways to restrict your bodily autonomy. Because even if they got knocked down by a court, that's 2 or 3 years down the road. They may not even be in office anymore, and someone else will just propose the same bill over again, and then it has to go through the same process. They can pass illegal laws and enforce them until you make them stop. It's a big flaw in our system.
Federal funds shall not be used to promote gender ideology. Each agency shall assess grant conditions and grantee preferences and ensure grant funds do not promote gender ideology. What?
This one doesn't even strike me as particularly coherent. Like, what do you mean and how? And it should be like a whole row of asterisks after this, but whatever.
What does promote gender ideology even mean?
Admit it exists, like this executive order does. This order is illegal by its own section.
Like gender is like a psychosocial concept. We know it's a scientific concept. Gender is part of our human behavior, part of our ecology. Jesus Christ.
It means Michael Knowles is running the show. That's what it means. It's just bullshit.
All right, we got this section. For how many sections does this thing have? 6.
There's a lot of sections.
Okay, we're not going to go through all this down here though. Like we're almost done.
Well,
We're
yeah,
on
a lot
section-
of that is just references.
Well, here's the thing. This all boils down to one thing. I mean, this all boils down to the fact that, and what we're just talking about here is deep down inside, these people know they're lying. They know they're lying to you. They know they're selling you a lie. The thing is, though, they're betting that most of the American people, and that includes the American media, truly don't, and especially the media, they are betting on that you don't know they're lying, that you don't know this isn't real, that all these things that you talked about, Ember, all the contradictions that you point out in this bill, point out in this executive order, they are betting on that no one's going to ask those questions, because there's questions like, again, I talked to a group of lawyers, people who are going to be fighting this thing. And even they say one of the biggest problems you have to deal with is we say A in court, but B gets reported to the average American.
Yeah, the media's lack of literacy on this. Again, like I don't want to play the ad every week, but independent journalism is fucking important because the big media has vested interests. They don't have investigative journalists. They don't have consultants anymore who understand these things or even look into these things. So to shorten the pitch, support the show. This shit is really, really important. And to what you were saying, Bree, about there being so many sections, most of this is building on what was already said. So I'm already way past my normal exit time. So I'll just cut to the chase on my big surprise. You've been distracted this entire time by the various bullshit in this order. Would you kindly scroll back up to the beginning? That preamble before section 1, by the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, including section 7301 of Title V United States Code, it is hereby ordered. We're so distracted with the minutia in the bill or in the executive order. I bet you nobody has bothered to look up what U.S. Code section 5, article 301 or 7301 actually says. But of course, I did. And it has to do with the principles governing, what's it called? Regulations of conduct for federal employees. That's it. It's literally drug testing and the code of ethics. That is all that this section has the authority to do. And there's quite a lot about drug testing, but there's also some fun things about ethical conduct. Part 1, Section 101, Principles of Ethical Conduct. To ensure every citizen can have a complete confidence in the integrity of the federal government, each federal employee shall respect and adhere to the fundamental principles of ethical service as implemented in regulations promulgated under Sections 201 and 301 of this order. And it lists a bunch. I'll only give a few. A, public service is a public trust, requiring employees to place loyalty to the Constitution, the laws, and ethical principles above private gain. B, employees shall not hold financial interests that conflict with the conscientious performance of duty. C, employees shall not engage in financial transactions using non-public government information or allow the improper use of such information to further any private interest. And it goes on and on like that.
The funny thing is,
employees shall not use public office for private gain. There's another thing further down about not benefiting partisans for your own purposes. You know, like pardoning a bunch of criminals because they're your supporters. Every single article in this code of ethics, Trump has violated in the first 5 days. Every single one. So not only is this executive order completely invalid because the section of United States Code he's drawing upon for the authority to do this has nothing to do with any of this and does not give him the power to do any of this, but the stuff that is in this section, it draws your attention directly to the things he himself has violated. Holy shit, folks. This is like a creationist referencing Stephen Jay Gould, who then demonstrates that what they're saying is not only not true, but the opposite of what's true. It's fucking wild. And
Well, you always got to fact check a swindler because they'll throw whatever reference down in front of you just to look like they have a reference.
I know it's almost like this was the intern who typed this up, because nobody in this administration has anything approaching competence. They don't know what the fuck any of this means. They don't know any of the laws. They don't know what they're doing. So an intern had to do this. The intern put a red flag right at the beginning, not only demonstrating that the president does not have the authority to do any of this, but drawing our attention to the numerous ethical violations in the Federal Code of Conduct that apply directly to him. It's basically this intern put up a giant middle finger and nobody's fucking noticed yet because no one looks, which is why independent journalism is so fucking important. That's my big piece.
All right.
Stay tuned for good news.
Thank you, Ember, for sticking around for as long as you did. We got 2 more sections to go through, and then we're going to get some good news, and we'll pile drive right through them. So,
hell yeah.
Well, right, Ember, thanks for bringing all of that up, because it is more than ironic that the man is citing a chapter designed to restrict employees to ethical conduct from the most unethical son of a bitch that has ever held the office.
You mean Trump's worse than Nixon?
Yes.
Are you saying?
I would say
I'd run with that.
Pretty awful. I mean,
Trump's far worse than
genocide.
Trump's far worse than Nixon. I mean, Nixon was bad, and Nixon was in fact a crook, but not on the scale, not on the same scale. I mean, Trump's the kind of. Oh, you said Jackson. Well, yeah, they're
Jackson did a genocide.
I thought you said Nixon, but okay.
I think Carly might have said Nixon.
Oh no, Nixon did a genocide too. Don't lie.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
I think Cambodia counts. I think Cambodia kind of counts.
Yeah,
and that's why Kissinger's death.
I think that unless people come together to throw a monkey wrench into this work, into these works,
that's
Trump's gonna top Nixon somewhere in the world,
but
maybe even right here.
But something that is the lesson of history that people should be taking right now, because what took down in a lot of ways, one of the things that took down Nixon to begin with was a mass movement. Nixon was a response to a mass movement. I mean, how did the United States end up leaving Vietnam? Mass movement. The mass movement pushed this nation out of that conflict. We need a mass movement I'm going to get on my soapbox for a minute. Yes, I'm going to be a long-winded bitch for a minute. Folks, I'm talking to all of you directly. We need a mass movement in this country against all of this, because we need to be in the streets and numbers that make the 60s look like just a minor park picnic. We need to be out in the streets because all these things are interconnected. And they're beginning in the way of true fascists. Pick on the weakest people. Pick on the smallest, weakest people and make them example and make you afraid of them. I'm going to tell you, you have no reason to be afraid of me or any transgender American. No, I don't want to trans your kid, but believe me, these irrational cisgender people sure the hell want to keep your kid cis. They have a vested interest. When I hear people say let kids be kids, what they're really saying is keep kids cis. They want to cis. They don't. Oh, we don't want you transing our child, but they sure hell want to cis your child. When they say parental rights, don't buy it. Because they're not talking about parents who affirm the child, parents who I sat in a room with today, who affirm their child who is trans and stands up for them. Where's their parental right? Don't they have any? Don't they have the
Yeah.
right to decide the best course for their kid? See, that is the thing that you all have to realize. We need you out in these streets for a mass movement. Okay, you may not know any trans people, but believe me, while they're getting you all hyped up about me, they gave Elon Musk an office in the White House. Now, if one of the world's richest men has access to the president like that, you know he's going to bend his ear for things that help them. Look at what President Trump was supposed to be for the people. Look who President Trump kicked to the curb on his inauguration day. Look where he wasn't. He wasn't with the people. Why do you think Trump went inside with that rather than being outside and let his adoring fans by the hundreds of thousands exalt him? Why? Because it was better for Bezos and Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and all the big pharma billionaires to have that access and make it comfortable for them.
The men that own him.
Yes. I mean, President Trump did one thing he wanted to do. He said he wanted to be like Putin. He wants to be like Putin. And you know what? He is like Putin. He's owned by people with very large checkbooks, just like Vladimir Putin. Putin is owned by the oligarchs. And now you're finding that here in America. And I'm going to tell you right now, the last thing I want is an America that looks like that. If you don't want that, and I know many of you don't, you need to get plugged in, get involved, find organizations that are working on the issues that matter to you. Be it healthcare, be it climate change, be it climate justice, be it anti-racism. And because all this comes to the work we all need to be talking about, anti-fascism.
Mm-hmm.
We all need to be a member of it. We all need to be Antifa right now. Because what is Antifa basically? It's anti-fascism. We need anti-fascist action because it's here now. It's here. So again, mass movement. It's time. Voting blue is not going to save you.
Correct. You know, I kind of wonder if Peter Thiel is going to be I wonder how long his tune is going to be singing when they come after gay men.
Well, you know that's what I say all the time. That's why I say, attention, white gay men. You cannot rule the world and perform fellatio at the same time. You got to pick one. Got to pick one. Yeah, I went there. Oh, I drove there because that's the fact of the matter.
You know, I'm thinking Ernst Röhm. You know, it's the Night of Long Knives, and you know, I wonder when that's going to happen. You know, I just.
Yeah. Really by the way, can we talk about Elon C. Kyle for a second?
That's a whole other topic.
See,
I really gotta go, folks.
I just want to say this:
later.
every European
Night Amber.
Night Amber.
Sure. Good night.
Every European I know, and I know quite a few people who are from continental Europe, live in continental Europe, or immigrated from continental Europe, and they all basically said that's called. If Elon Musk had done that in any European country, he would be in jail at best, and he would have gotten his butt beat at worst. Because for example, in Germany, you can't do that. You literally cannot do that in the Federal Republic of Germany. You can't do what he did. You can't do that. In most Scandinavian countries, you can't do that.
The people he was doing it for got their message.
They got their message.
And
it doesn't matter. There's definitely a crew of people out here saying no, he's autistic, he's impulsive, whatever.
No way.
That's gaslighting. The Nazis who were watching for their signal got their signal.
No, but the thing is, it's the main. Nobody was willing to call that out and call that what it was. Edward R. Murrow would have called that out.
Sure.
But why? But why is it that every nightly news anchor is saying?
I mean, hell.
Well,
it's
an awkward.
Called it out. You know, I mean.
Yeah, even Buckley would have. But everybody's like, well, it's an awkward gesture. Or when the Anti-Defamation League is willing to tap dance on this one,
I saw that.
Something ain't right.
I saw that.
The ADL was tap dancing on this. That makes me wonder.
Well, the ADL is tap dancing on a lot of other things too, and the ADL gets its money from interesting spots.
Oh, kind of like how Israel sold arms to Ukrainian neo-Nazis. They did.
I just want to point out that Elon Musk is from the Republic of South Africa, and his family benefited mightily from apartheid.
From apartheid. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, but let's stop calling it an awkward gesture and just say he Sieg Heil'd you twice. He hooked you up with the Sieg Heil twice. It wasn't awkward.
There was a specific audience that was for. That was for Nick Fuentes, the Proud Boys, what they call themselves, the Wolverines or some shit like that.
You're a Nazi with the last name Fuentes.
And all the cool kids on fucking 4chan. That's who it was for.
Mm.
It was saying we got one of our people, which he is a 4chan dude. He's saying we got one of our Nazi chuds in the Oval Office, whispering in King Theoden's ear. Now, not to say that Trump was with King Theoden in any shape or form, but if anybody gets that reference, they're probably a big nerd. But that's who it was for. He was sending a message to that cohort, and you can tell by the way how he puts cack instead of LOL after his laughing emojis.
Oh yeah.
How he uses the term friend.
Yeah.
Like when he's talking about his people, the FREN, it means far right ethno nationalist.
Mm-hmm.
He wants an ethno state. There's all the signs are there that Elon Musk has fascist leaning and wants.
And I gotta wonder how much of the mask has to fall off before it becomes obvious to the vast majority of people that it's like, hey, we are in fact over the damn cliff at the moment, and we better get pretty goddamn good at repelling, because otherwise we won't survive the journey.
A lot of people in this country are just sitting there smiling as you're hearing the notes of "The World Belongs to Me," or rather, "Tomorrow Belongs to Me."
Tomorrow belongs to me.
Yeah. I would play that, but I'm afraid we'd get copyright stuff. But somebody drop a link to that scene in the side
cabaret,
live chat. So the cabaret, so that you can know what we're talking about here. And in the meantime, why don't we watch some good news, and then we'll come back.
I think that'd be wonderful.
Well, you guys, I'm gonna be shoving off because I'm actually on an open mic at this convention tonight. But Transposition Sports will be back next week. We're gonna be covering, and there's a lot we're gonna be talking about. There's a lot we have to talk about. One thing I'm trying to effort is getting a sit down with Chris Mosier this week. But there's a lot we're going to be talking about. In fact, Chris is here at this conference.
Ooh, cool.
Chris is at this conference with the Raleigh Fingers mustache. I am liking Chris Mosier with the Raleigh Fingers look.
I like that. Yeah.
I think it's a cool. The handlebars. Actually, Actually, now to think of it, it's not Raleigh Fingers anymore. It's more he's starting to get a little Ben Davidson with it, and
So
I'm here
future
for it.
generations are going to call that a Chris Mosier mustache.
Yeah,
So.
why not? But hey, good night, you two. Good night, all. Next week,
Good night, Curly.
more from creating change next week, and we will be back. I love you, and remember, let's keep the faith, and let's build a mass movement.
Love you too,
Mhm.
Carly. Have a good night. Enjoy Vegas while you're there.
Oh, I will. Viva Las Vegas. Viva, viva Las Vegas. Thank you very much.
All
Love
right,
it.
we're gonna jump right into good news here.
Good news, everyone! Tonight, Wyoming goes wild, trans resistance ramps up, Maryland kicks back, and more. Good news starts right now. First up, transphobic misogynists get a little more honest. I'll explain. On Sunday, the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle posted an article titled, "Senators, No Transgender Athletes Should Be Allowed in Intercollegiate Athletics." Not that we shouldn't be allowed on the correct team. Not that trans women shouldn't compete with cis women, as the state's 2023 bill banning trans girls from competing in grades 7 through 12 did. Just trans people should not be allowed in sports at all. Period. Yes, that's what they've always meant, but the duplicitous way they said it gave them some cover. Now they're saying it outright, and having to deal with the logical entailments of their own incoherent beliefs. The State Education Committee passed Bill SF 44 by 4-1 along exact party lines. Notice how many of these things are split exactly along party lines? Even at the state level, if there were more Democrats, this vote would be different by exactly that much. But I do digress. State Senator Wendy Schuler of Evanston proposed the bill, describing it as fairly simple. She said, quote, "It requires students at the University of Wyoming and Wyoming community colleges to compete in intercollegiate athletic competitions based on their biological sex." Now, I can't get deeper into much of that without crossing into sports territory. I have to stick to the legal side, but I can say the text of the bill defines sex as what's on your birth certificate. Paperwork, apparently, is more biological than the living human beings made of biology are. But details. It also defines athletic competition as including any contest, exhibition, or performance. So, no dancing if you're trans. Don't you dare enter a science fair, because then you'll be exhibiting your unfair biological something rar. But that's just an aside. Nyoka Erickson, seen here at her engineering job, is also a badass who plays both roller derby and hockey on both men and women's teams. Keep that in mind for later. She said, quote, "I don't think it is appropriate for the state to tell sporting organizations what their policy should be, and, because of her experiences playing on teams of all gender configurations, is more qualified than most to say trans women do belong in sports." Macy Boggs, seen here trying to grift like Riley Gaines, and who isn't even from Wyoming but Nebraska, was nonetheless platformed to opine on the legal situation, and told the Tribune-Eagle that the UW women's volleyball team, who, as reported in Transposition Sports, chose to forfeit games last year out of spite, was, quote, "denied the chance to play," because they had to either compete against a team rostering a male athlete on a women's scholarship, robbing us of fair and safe competition, or forfeit. First of all, making a choice isn't a denial, obviously. More important, as reported in Transposition Sports, the team being referenced is only alleged to have a trans team member, in much the same way Imani Khalif was alleged to be trans. somebody started a witch hunt, nobody has any evidence, and people running amok over it illustrate why it isn't anybody's business for a vast array of reasons, not the least of which being that it implies somebody ought to be checking inside children's pants to examine what's there. A huge privacy violation for all kids. But even more than that, Boggs's blathering reveals the true position of transphobes under the thin veil of faux feminism. Transmisogyny is grounded in two premises. Trans women are men, and women suck at sports. It's misogyny with extra steps. Worse, it pretends to be feminism while actively and aggressively trying to subjugate all women. Remember Ms. Erickson? I asked you to keep in mind that she plays two of the most physically intense sports there are, roller derby and hockey, and she plays on both women's and men's teams. She puts the lie to Macy's nonsense because she demonstrates that women are capable of playing with the boys. Women don't suck at sports, and it's sexist and gross to say we do. It's worth noting that the paper didn't bother to include any trans people's perspectives on this bill that affects trans people. A University of Wyoming student survey from 2022 reveals about 2% of the student body are openly trans, consistent with the range established by national surveys. That's not a lot of people, but with an enrollment of 11,000, that's more than 200 people. Maybe they're all reluctant to talk to the media because of what happened to the last trans person to get noticed at UW. Artemis Langford made national news in 2023 after she became the first trans woman to join the sorority Kappa Kappa Gamma at the University of Wyoming and faced a lawsuit over it, which she won last year. For over a year, she faced harassment both in person from fellow students and members of the community at large, and from the national media. So that may have something to do with why UW's trans students don't want to talk to the press. All these bills and acts and committee meetings where Republicans try to push their regressive agenda down everyone's throats are revealing more and more clearly that while they're presented as just protecting women, the reality is they're just oppressing women. They're codifying that women aren't good enough, that we're second class and we should expect less privacy than men, whether it's checking our papers or checking inside our pants. Trans people are just the excuse. We've always known that, but now they're saying it. And to be clear, the reason that's good news is because the 75 million US voters and who knows how many more around the world who were fooled by the propaganda and rhetoric, well, now that illusion is starting to shatter. We protect women by protecting all women, including trans women, including black women, including lesbians and women with beards and women with alopecia and every other kind of women. Blatantly discriminatory bills like SF-44 and the misogynistic supporters backing them make it clear that so-called conservatives are only interested in doing the opposite. Next, a science spotlight. Why is the regret rate so unbelievably low for trans patients? An article titled Post-Operative Regret Among Transgender and Gender Diverse Recipients of Gender-Affirming Surgery was published recently in the Journal of the American Medical Association Surgery, asking the question, why is the surgical regret so much lower for trans patients? That because, as has been noted on this program, the regret rate for trans surgeries is more than 93% lower than that for the average of all procedures and is by far the lowest of any regret rate in medicine. That article sought answers not just for curiosity's sake, but to see if something might be found that could be adapted to other surgeries to improve the outcomes for procedures generally. The authors investigated post-operative regret rates for patients who received some type of gender-affirming surgery. Their meta-analysis included over 7,000 patients and found a regret rate so low it was scarcely measurable, less than 1% for both transmasculine and transfeminine people. The average regret rate for surgeries overall is around 14.4%. Again, gender-affirming care has a higher rate of positive outcomes than anything else humans do. To be clear, surgical regret rates include things like infections or unexpected difficulties while healing. Other surveys we've covered reveal that only 8% of those who do state having regrets as part of transition are dissatisfied with the surgical procedure itself, or less than 0.08% of the total study participants, who number in the thousands. That said, the regret rate is so low, it is statistically impossible. That is to say, the people receiving these surgeries experience a quality of life increase so great it completely eclipses other factors that in any other circumstance would constitute some measure of regret, like post-surgical infections, for example. Dr. Harry Barbie, one of the article's authors, is an assistant professor in the Bloomberg School of Public Health at Johns Hopkins University. Quote, "Researchers are currently working to improve their understanding of regret among patients who receive gender-affirming surgeries, and they still have much to learn," they said in an email. The article also compared studied regret rates for identical procedures, for example, breast removal for cisgender women versus transmasculine people. While the transmasc subjects had a regret rate close to zero, the cis group was nearly 13%. One possible explanation is that trans people go into these procedures far more well-informed and highly motivated, whereas cis people receiving them are not as well-educated and considerably less enthusiastic. Dr. Barbie said, quote, "Achieving this goal through surgery may lead patients to think more positively about their procedure than patients who, for example, seek a surgical procedure to prevent potentially negative health outcomes like cancer." Another potential explanation is that trans people are more likely to investigate more about the procedures they're receiving on their own, leading to a more realistic understanding of the risks and benefits, whereas cis people may only passively receive information from their physicians and often undergo treatment with reluctance. The article also discusses some of the limitations of studies like this, such as a need for more attention to potential confounding factors and identifying details that could help explain some of the differences observed. It is important to note that studies like this demonstrate the myths pushed by anti-trans activists are pseudoscience propaganda, like the claim that trans people are rushed into surgery or other irreversible treatments without being fully informed so as to properly consent. Research into regret rates are important not only because they refute misleading narratives around trans care, but also to better understand what works and what doesn't, to help reduce the numbers of regretful detransitioners, and, last but not least, to help improve outcomes for patients who need surgery of all kinds. Trans healthcare makes medicine better for everyone. Dr. Barbie puts it this way, quote, "Studying various dimensions of post-operative regret and satisfaction can help healthcare practitioners identify ways to improve patient education such that patients can make the most well-informed decisions." The authors end the article with a brief discussion on the need for better governmental support. Quote, "Public policy that regulates access to gender-affirming care should also be based on available evidence," Dr. Barbie wrote. "We couldn't agree more, but the recent legislation has often not been evidence-based, which can severely harm trans people in need of care. With bans on youth care in numerous states and restrictions impacting adults in several states as well, none of it based in evidence or outcomes, it seems propaganda, not facts, is leading the discourse." Articles like this not only highlight some of the science on regret rates, but demonstrate why lawmakers should be listening to academics, medical professionals, and the GSM community. As Dr. Barbie wrote, quote, "Much of the public policies that prohibit transgender people from accessing gender-affirming care are not based on the scientific consensus and often have the potential to cause more harm than good. Putting a spotlight on where the real science stands is one of the best ways to help. And you can help us do that by sharing this video. Educate someone you know today. Next, I recently became aware of a trans-positive radio program broadcasting out of Portland. On their latest show, they discussed some tips for how to deal with the stressful changes happening in the U.S. government. Here's a sample.
When people are staging a protest and they just go limp, it takes 3 people to carry away a limp human body. It's actually easier than if you resist. If you just go limp, they have to bear all the weight. And I think that's something we should do. We should try to say, just let the lethargy of trying to get their little magic agenda, let them try, but just go limp. Don't cooperate. Don't make it easier for them. So that's my first thought. The second thing is to continue. So the idea is we want to continue with our resistance. We want to be able to say we're going to do it all the time, every way we can. So we're going to frustrate them because almost everything they do is hurting someone, even if it isn't us. So what we want to do is we want to sit there and network, and we want to link arms, and we want to be not just a dead weight, but we also want to do something positive. And the last thing is to not lose contact with who we are as people. We have to continue to live our lives. We can't just turn away from everything. We have to somehow realize that we can't give it every single second of our day. We have to develop skills of self-care so that we don't do anything to tear our bodies down, our minds down, or spirits down, or our relationships down. So we have to adopt a therapeutic modality for everything that we do each day. And we do it not just for ourselves, but we do it for each other and for our community. And by doing that, we bear witness that we're good people and that we're something that have a lot to offer.
You can find more from the Transpositive PDX show twice a month on KBOO Radio in Portland, KBOO.FM on the web, or on the podcast app of your choice. Next, Maryland pushes back on federal rule changes. The Birth Certificate Modernization Act is designed to make it easier to update sex markers on state-issued documents like driver's licenses, as well as birth certificates, and will add an X option to recognize non-binary people and increase existing security by codifying that no document shall display any sign of past amendment. Senator Clarence Lamb, sponsor of the act, said, quote, "This bill will ensure that people can obtain documentation that matches who they are." Opponents of self-ID often argue that it is vital for public safety as well as personal security that identification match the description of the individual being identified, but don't seem to realize that's exactly the point. If the ID says something that obviously doesn't match the person theoretically being described, it causes confusion that can lead to problems. Being able to update identity documents is essential for the government's interest. Being able to determine whether the person presenting an ID is the person on the ID. Existing state law permits people who have undergone medicalization or are intersex to correct their birth certificates, and provides for caretakers such as guardians or legal representatives to file written requests on behalf of those under their care as well. This act not only removes the necessity for surgery, but makes the entire process more efficient, more secure, and more accessible. Plus, it adds the X option, increasing the utility considerably over the existing statute. During the current president's first term, federal policy was drastically changed to restrict trans health care and remove discrimination protections, as well as banish trans service members from the armed forces. On Monday, the president signed an executive order declaring the federal government will recognize only male and female designations, and went on to provide a definition that categorizes every American as female. That's the fun of having science illiterate incompetents in charge. They put all kinds of interesting things into law without even realizing what they're doing. It's always good to see that regardless of what chicanery is afoot in the Capitol, Some states are still on the path to greater equality and justice for all Americans. The fact that this effort is in spite of regressive posturing at the federal level makes it all the sweeter. If you enjoy content like this, make sure to subscribe. Transpositions Weekly is the first and only weekly trans news show in the universe, and we need your support to keep this show going. Contribute at patreon.com/TheTransPositions. Spread the word all over social media to let people know we're here, and tell us what stories matter to you by joining the community on Discord. Discord, of course, is where the memes live, and our meme of the week was posted by Stephanie. And if you want to snuggle up with the symbol of transness for mutual warmth and comfort, join us. Also, if you have good news concerning trans people you'd like to see reported on, you can tell us about that in the Discord as well. For the Transpositions, I've been Ember Belrad.
Night Bree, you're muted. I think you're muted. Huh. Am I muted? Oh my goodness. Hang on a sec. Yeah, you chat saying you're muted, Bree.
Did that fix it? Yeah.
That fixed it. Yeah.
Well, good news was
Welcome back.
playing. My Ben and BB came home, so I went out there and talked.
Okay.
To them, disconnected from my mic and connected to my headphones. Because
Whatever.
it's the end of the
You know.
show, but yeah, we're about closed out anyway. All I had today, I mean, we knew that going over that executive order was going to be Herculean, because every sentence is loaded down with nonsense that all four of us long-winded bitches want to have a go at.
Oh yeah.
So,
Well, you know, nobody does this sort of thing on the YouTubes without a soupçon of ego, you know. Otherwise, it's like I've been going at this like what 2.5 hours on Takis earlier, and then coming in here, and I'm kind of burned out, but I do want to read just a tiny bit of this article about the judge in Seattle blocks Trump order on birthright citizenship nationwide, just cause I don't want people to walk away from this thinking that there is no hope, because there is. And it's you know, hope is one thing, action's another, and the way to preserve hope is to engage and really pay attention. If we want, you know, if we want to follow the question that a Philadelphian asked Ben Franklin during the Constitutional Convention, what kind of government have you given us? A republic, ma'am. If you can keep it, it's up to us to keep it. And it's up to judges and lawyers and people like you to make sure that the people who are fighting have a fighting chance. And it's not just for those of us who are at the tip of the spear, it's for you. So I just want to, you know, I just want to share this. It's very short. I'll make it as brief as possible, but here we go. Share screen. I understand. Let's proceed. Judge in Seattle. Yeah, here we go. So, judge in Seattle blocks Trump order on birthright citizenship nationwide. A federal judge, David Gutman, Seattle Times. You know, I'm glad the Seattle Times doesn't have a paywall set up, because this is an important story. A federal judge in Seattle blocked temporarily President Donald Trump's attempt to rescind birthright citizenship, the idea spelled out in the Constitution that every person born in the United States is an American citizen. And as I said, almost right at the beginning of this of the show, this is the first clause in the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which was written by a senator from Ohio, whose name escapes me at the moment, but this man should be, I'm going to have to look this up. I'm going to have to look up the guy, because he deserves to be recognized. Who wrote the 14th Amendment? John A. Bingham, a Republican congressman from Ohio, was the primary author of the first section of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. The most powerful piece of the reconstitution of America after America's most bloody war. Anyway, let's get back to this thing here. John Bingham ought to be remembered. And I fault myself for not remembering him. Senior U.S. District Judge John Coffenauer, I probably butchered that, on Thursday was blistering in his criticism of Trump's action as he granted a temporary restraining order that blocks Trump's executive order from taking effect nationwide. I've been on the bench for over 4 decades. I can't remember another case where the question presented is as clear as this one. This is a blatantly unconstitutional order. Coffenauer, an appointee of Ronald Reagan, said from the bench, there are other times in world history where we look back and people of goodwill can say, where were the judges? Where were the lawyers? I would add, where were we? Coffenauer, speaking to a standing room only courtroom in downtown Seattle, interrupted before Brett Shumate, a Justice Department attorney, could even complete his first sentence. In your opinion, is this executive order constitutional? He asked. Said Shumate, it absolutely is. This is a judge. Frankly, I have difficulty understanding how a member of the bar could state unequivocally that this is a constitutional order. Coffenauer said, it just boggles my mind. The executive order will remain blocked for at least 14 days while lawsuits in Washington and elsewhere proceed. Washington will next seek a preliminary injunction from Coffenauer, which would continue to block the executive order as cases move along. Washington Attorney General Nick Brown sued Trump and his administration Tuesday, the day after the president issued his executive order ending birthright citizenship. Brown, at a news conference Tuesday, called the order an unconstitutional, un-American, and cruel attempt to redefine what it means to be an American. And that's what the first clause of the 14th Amendment does. It defines what it means to be an American. And it was adopted in the wake of a bloody struggle over whether the institution of slavery would continue chattel slavery would continue here. And it did declare unequivocally that black folk who were dragged here from 1619 forward are citizens of this country. Coffenhauer's ruling is the first after a flurry of lawsuits was filed this week across the country attempting to block the executive order. Washington was joined in its lawsuit by Oregon, Illinois, and Arizona. 18 other states filed a similar lawsuit in federal court in Massachusetts, and several immigrants' rights groups have sued the administration in federal court in New Hampshire. Oh, New England. His ruling was also reminiscent of the earliest days of Trump's first presidency, when a federal judge in Seattle blocked Trump's executive order banning travel from a group of 7 predominantly Muslim countries. That ruling was appealed, but courts ultimately blocked the order in a subsequent one before the Supreme Court allowed a third, slightly narrower order to take effect. More than a century of legal precedent has recognized the Constitution's 14th Amendment as granting U.S. citizenship to every person born here. The 14th Amendment begins, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Birthright citizenship, part of Reconstruction amendments adopted at the end of the Civil War. Brown wrote in the lawsuit, emerged out of one of our nation's darkest chapters and embodies one of its most solemn promises. Remember that part of the Dream speech where Dr. King was going on about a promissory note? What's going on now is an attempt to take it back. President Trump and the federal government now seek to impose a modern version of Dred Scott, Brown wrote, citing the overturned Supreme Court case that denied citizenship to enslaved people and their children. After the court hearing, Brown said Coffenhauer's comments reinforced that no one individual, not even the President of the United States, can simply erase what it means to amend the Constitution. We came to the courthouse today to defend the United States Constitution, to defend democracy in America, and to defend what it means to be an American citizen, Brown told a swarm of reporters and cameras outside the courthouse. We are thrilled that the court saw the seriousness and the urgency of the complaint. So I just want to say that this shit's important. And the fight isn't over. You want to bend the arc of history towards justice, you got to put your shoulder to the wheel. Shoulder to the bow. Bend it. It's important. It's never been more important. And while our shoulders are working together and bending that bow, we can't lose hope. We just have to do the work.
All right. I think that's a good a spot to end it as we could ask for. Thank you, Steph, for bringing that up here. And yeah, until next time, yeah, we're the TransPositions.
Oh, yeah, we are. And now we're going to hit the button and thank everybody for coming. Please like, share, subscribe to our channel. Help us continue to do our work every week for as long as they'll let us. We'll keep doing it. Support us. We need some watch hours so that we can start offering all the YouTube goodies. We need and so help us out in that regard. and tell your friends.
Yeah, join
we'll
the
be here.
Patreon. We got free levels on the Patreon too.
Yeah, we do.
But you can be a special snowflake like Jason Jacoby, or you could be part of Blaha's Legion with H. Jasper, E. Calazia, and Matt D. and Ember. So we got options out there for you. Come hang out with us. We have exclusive content over there too. So, yep.
I want to thank all of our moderators, both on
PC.
on our Discord, PC, Rochelle, Colossia 789, Jason. I think Jay is mod here. I think, and Maya, of course, Maya Atkinson. I want to thank everybody who's been so supportive of our efforts since we started the show in March of last year. We're here for you, and we're glad you're here for us. So with that, have a good night.